The Intercity 125, or high-speed train, has been the mainstay of intercity services in the UK for over 40 years, and is currently the world's fastest diesel train. Originally built between 1976 and 1982, the HST has had a fulfilling career during its time in service. With many now enjoying retirement, most can still be found in service with operators such as GWR and Cross Country, albeit in revised formations. Whilst you can relive the classic HST experience on the Midland Pullman, this costs an extortionate amount of money. Although the 125Group, however, have HST running days at an affordable price of £15. So, it's now time for me to get the show on the rails and relive the classic experience. Our journey today begins at the Midland Railway Butterley, which is located in Ripley in Derbyshire. As for a station reference, I'd say the closest one is around Alfreton, after which you'll have to take a bus to get out here, as it is a pretty isolated location. Although in this case, I'm going to recommend you do something that I would normally not recommend as a pro rail user and drive there. As suggested by the name, the Midland Railway is a former branch of the Derwent Valley Line, a small branch of the Midland Main Line. The railway originally opened in 1889 and was closed in 1968 and restored as a preserved railway in 1981. Inside Butterley Station building can be found a gift shop for general knickknacks and souvenirs. Elsewhere within the building can be seen a lot of memorabilia dedicated to the Midland Railway. To the left of the station of the entrance to the platforms can be found a ticket office, which is where I will be getting my ticket for today's journey. As mentioned previously, my ticket today costs a grand total of £15 and enables me to have unlimited travel on the Midland Railway all day, so long as trains are running. I will be aiming to catch the 12:40 from Butterley and do the return from Swanwick. Whilst the principal aim of today is to ride the HST, we can also have a look and admire the other preserved railway vehicles that are located on the railway. For example, in front of us is a Class 117 DMU, which was previously used on the Midland Main Line prior to its electrification. Next to that, we can see one of the original Pacers, the Class 141, which was used a few weeks ago with the Class 142 in the background prior to this recording. Being a heritage railway, it's no surprise to see stuff like this here. However, it was a bit of a shock as well to see modern bus timetables. Although, given how isolated this area is, you can imagine that it is rather necessary. And, after enough nosing around, here comes our train, which is led by 43159, an ex-Great Western Railway power car. This power car currently has the world record as the world's fastest diesel locomotive, a record which is shared with 43102, which is currently preserved at the National Railway Museum. The power car on the rear, 43048, is an ex-East Midlands Railway power car and is the first HST power car to have ever run at 125 miles an hour in Reservation. The HST will run further along the line to Hammersmith and then reverse back into Butterley to pick up passengers to take along the Midland Railway. I've been looking forward to this ride for a while, as the running days for the HST don't happen that often, and the first one in April I sadly missed. That being said though, we're now here and ready to ride the HST along the Midland Railway. So, let's open the door and get inside. We start with a look around the train, and we are currently in the train's only standard class carriage, with the remainder of the train consisting of first class carriages, which are more than covered by my ticket, as this is declassified for passenger use today. So I will be able to enjoy the ride in comfort along the Midland Railway. Even in standard class, the bulk of the seating is table seating, which is just how the trains were when they were initially introduced in the late 1970s. First class is a 2+1 configuration and features headrests and other features, which I'll be looking into later. We're in one of the buffet carriages now, and we are currently passing buffet and shop 125. Again, something I'll be having a look at later throughout the trip. And here's the final first class carriage, as the other buffet carriage is out of use. So, it's time to take my seat and hit the Iron Road, so let's go. We're only a few minutes into the journey and I'm already feeling the nostalgia coming back from when I used to ride these with East Midlands Railway and East Midlands trains, earlier on Midland Main Line. But anyways, believe it or not, it's actually about to start raining, so I feel like now's a better time than ever for a Know Your Seat, as well as to look at some other features of the train. Seeing as I'm in first class, we may as well start here. These are some of the most plush seats I have ever sat on, and as such they are incredibly comfortable. So are the headrests, and it makes for a very comfortable ride in my opinion, and is definitely worth the price tag. The armrests, however, are not foldable. It's also worth noting that the headrests on the seat were donated by Cross Country to the 125 Group in late 2021. Whilst there is room for improvement on the legroom, no pun intended, I would honestly say that for a table seat, it is rather adequate and much better than today's offerings. Seat reservation card holders are also present above each seat, as, unlike the Meridians which these trains used to work with, these lack electronic reservation systems. In first class, there are curtains to be drawn for when you feel like you want to take a nap or you want to just draw out the sun. Although, as can be seen, it is a nice day, so why would we need to do this? And next to the curtains are coat hangers for the storage of coats, jackets, and other relevant items. And finally, as was typical of an Intercity train at the time, there are plug sockets in first class only, although these do not appear to be working today. The one thing that's been going through my mind throughout this trip is that it's amazing of the amount of heritage stock that is stored here. For example, in the background we can see some Greater Anglia Mark III carriages, as well as one of 125 Group's other power cars, 43089. And with that, we've arrived into our first stop of Swanwick. Swanwick Junction is the gateway to a museum complex on the Midland Railway, with all services stopping here to enable passengers to alight. The train then returns to Swanwick to pick passengers back up to take them back to Butterley. As for me, however, I've reboarded the HST and am now behind world record holder 43159 to continue my journey along the Midland Railway. As we leave the station, we can see the main building in the background, as well as a bunch of enthusiasts taking videos of the HST. Despite it feeling like we're going very fast purely because I'm recording from the window, we are actually not going that fast, surprisingly, compared to what the train can normally do in passenger service. Currently, we're at a speed of 25 miles an hour, which is about the average speed of a car on a regular road. This is to be expected though, as considering this is a preserved railway and is a former branch line from the main Midland Main Line, it's no surprise that this speed restriction has been imposed on us. That being said though, it does give us a chance to enjoy the amazing scenery and experience the other features of the HST once more that we can no longer gain in passenger service. Further along the line at Riddings, we have now reversed and are ready to make the return to Butterley via Swanwick Junction. As I've mentioned previously, this is to once again pick up passengers from the museum at Swanwick Junction and take them back to Butterley via Hammersmith. Upon arrival into Swanwick Junction again, we can see some of the Mark III carriages which are owned by the 125 Group. These, along with the other Mark III carriages and the 4 power cars which they own, were donated from Porterbrook Leasing Company to the group between 2020 and 2021. 43159 was the most recent addition to the group, having been stored at Nemesis Rail in Burton-on-Trent for a number of years, and as you can see from the photo, was in a pretty poor state of repair at the time. Fortunately, the 125 Group have managed to completely turn around its condition and make it fit for use in its life and preservation. I'm going to be getting out at Swanwick Junction for a bit, as we do have a 6-minute dwell time. So, here's how to open the door on a HST. First of all, you open the window of the door. Second of all, you put your arm out of the window to grab the latch. Then you push down the latch, push open the door, and the door is open. Don't forget to close the door behind you, as That does help in terms of departure times. I'm not going to stick around for long, as it is rather wet out here and I would like to get back inside. So, let's go and check out 43159. It's worth noting that all of 125 Group's power cars are planned to have different engines. 43159 has an MTU engine. 048 and 089 both have the P185s, whereas 43044 is planned to have the original Valente unit, which was fitted to the power cars upon production. Well, it's now time for us to head off, so door closed and window up. It's now time to check out the standard class portion of the train, starting with the Know Your Seat. The seats are again rather plush and comfortable, especially for a standard class seat. Then again, the one thing I found is that the older the interior, the more comfortable it is. Again, the armrests don't move. There are also airline style seats in standard class, and at the back of each seat is a foldable tray for the storage of drinks, light refreshments and other items if necessary. And they are rather large and spacious, which is good to see. Legroom is again very generous, and it honestly does question that of their successors. How do people find comfort on modern trains? Besides the overhead luggage racks, there is also very generous luggage space throughout the rest of the train, not just in standard class, but also in first as well. I mean, just look at that. Absolutely amazing. I have now moved further along the train to check out the 125 Group shop and buffet service, Buffet and Shop 125. There are no prizes for guessing that this is located in the buffet car, and not only does it feature light refreshments and snacks, but also a lot of HST memorabilia and other items such as flasks and ticket holders. However, I decided to hold out on buying today. And the final thing to check out is the toilet, which is actually functional, believe it or not. So, we can lock the door and we can begin. So, initial impressions. I have to admit, it is really nostalgic being in this toilet again. Even seeing this sign which East Midlands Trains put up before they lost the franchise. Well, whilst they had the franchise. I always liked their toilet jokes, as it did make things rather amusing. Right, the soap is stocked up, believe it or not. And whilst the tap is weaker than expected, it is still working, so that is pretty impressive. Point to note, there are no accessible toilets on this train, which is why it was withdrawn in the first place, as it didn't meet modern accessibility standards. No hand dryer as well, so we're going to have to use some napkins which are present there. And whilst they can be quite difficult to get out, you can get them out eventually at the right angles. You know what? I guess we have to take the train's age into account. I'll give it a thumbs up. Especially as this train is now in preservation, and as such will not be ever used on the main line in passenger service again. Well, that's enough of looking around, I think. It's time to get back to the journey. As we head back into Butterley Station, we can see a recent arrival in the form of a Class 142, which has recently been outshopped into its old VR livery. We can also see some other heritage stock as we approach the station. Point to note, however, we will not be stopping at Butterley Station straight away, as we still need to head over to Hammersmith in order to reverse. And no, I know what you're thinking, it's not that particular Hammersmith in London. It's actually another place located on the Midland Railway, which we'll be looking into now shortly. So, let's go. The one thing you have to admire about this portion of the trip is the view of the lake in the background, which is used as a common angling spot by the locals, and it is absolutely gorgeous, especially in this sunny weather. I've always found Derbyshire to be one of the UK's hidden gems, and it's views like this which definitely support that statement. Shortly afterwards, we now find ourselves approaching Hammersmith, the end of the line for the Midland Railway. However, we will not be stopping here today, as the train will only stop here to reverse back into Butterley. Thanks to the A38 road, the line is restricted here. I'm sure you can see a few cars in the background running over it, so as such, this is as far as we'll go today. A fun fact as well is Hammersmith is the birthplace of St Barnes Wallis, who is the inventor of the bouncing bomb used during World War II. Right, conclusions. Overall, I have to say that I've really enjoyed my ride on 125 Group's HST today, not only because I was able to relive a childhood experience, which I have experienced up until 2020 when the sets were withdrawn, but also that 125 Group have done such an amazing job looking after this HST, from the cleanliness of the set to the functionality of the set. Whilst the plug sockets could be working, I would argue that a short journey such as this, it's not really necessary, and that over time I'm sure they will be up and running. But overall, I would have to say that this has been a really enjoyable ride, and I really do thank 125 Group for making this ride possible and for having it at such an affordable price. And with that, we arrive back into Butterley, and I would like to thank you very much for coming along with me on this ride today. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a like as well as share it, as that really does help the channel to grow. If you're new to the channel and you would like to see more content such as this, why not consider subscribing? I upload frequent trip reports, train comparisons and journeys on a regular basis. Well, that's it from me guys, it's time for me to head home now. Oh wait, close the door behind me. So, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!